I'll hold on to my seat.
All right. Just as a reminder for folks who are listening in and interacting, we just need to turn on our microphone so you can hear both ways. So I'm going to call to order our Borough of Conshohocken Authority meeting for June. So if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Just a quick announcement. I'd like to amend the agenda to add an item under the solicitor's report, and that would be to speak about party status in an upcoming Plymouth zoning board hearing.
So we need a motion and a second to amend the agenda and then a vote.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to change the agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
And then the agenda on the website needs to be updated by tomorrow, and the door of this office needs to be updated as well.
Thank you. Okay, do we want to do a quick roll call? Thanks, Shen.
Chiver, Christine Bertino,
Here.
Jack Amber,
Here.
George Bass,
Here.
Tina Sokolow.
Here. Great, thanks. All right, before we get started, is there any public comment related to any of the agenda items or anything anyone wants to share? And did any public comment come in on the website or anything to the, okay. All right, hearing no public comment, we will jump right into our agenda. And this evening, we have invited guests. We have the Maher Duessel 2025 Audit individuals to go over our audit report.
All right.
Okay, we're back. Good.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. We good to start? Shannon, do you need to say anything or?
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you virtually. My name is Bob Bellicos. I'm a partner with Maher. I have with me James Contrella, who's the senior manager on your audit. I appreciate you giving us the ability to do this remotely in the first year here. So I'm going to go through the communication letter to those charged with governance. James will hit some financial statement highlights, and then we're happy to take any questions after those reports or during. Feel free to interrupt us at any time. We did not have a written management letter this year. There were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses to report that required to be in written form. So clean audit over your internal controls and operations that we tested. Okay, starting here with the communication letter. First section there, our responsibility is to give an opinion that your financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. In addition to the accounting practices and procedures prescribed or permitted by the DCD, which is a regulatory basis. The DCD does not require footnote disclosures, your MD&A, or the required supplementary information. So that is just audited on a regulatory basis. So you do receive an unmodified opinion on that report, as well as an unmodified opinion on your full financial statements. Second paragraph, we performed the audit to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance that the financials and schedules are free of material misstatement. An audit is not 100% assurance, but we perform samples of transactions and processes throughout the audit and the authority. Next page there, significant accounting policies. There was one new government accounting standards board adoption for the year, GASB Statement 102, certain risk disclosures. No impact on your financial statements anticipated here for the future. An example of that would be if a customer left and would affect your revenue base, and we would have to disclose, the impact on that customer leaving, how it might impact your financial statements, but nothing currently to report under that disclosure or standard. And all significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. Accounting estimates, you have one sensitive estimate that I identified. That's over your PRMS net pension asset for this year and the deferred outflows and related inflows, as well as the expense. That's based on a third-party actuary evaluation. We evaluate the methods, assumptions, and data used to develop and determine if they're reasonable in presenting that information as part of your financial statements. Disclosures, no sensitive disclosures within your financial statements other than Note 7, which deals with the pension disclosures that included above as part of your sensitive estimates. All your financial statements disclosures are included and in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles, and they're neutral, consistent, and clear. We had no difficulties in dealing with management and performing the audit. We received information timely and in good shape to be audited during our on-site and remote fieldwork process. We have an online portal that is used, a secure portal to upload information for us to be able to work on a hybrid basis. We came on site for a couple days and then finished the remainder of the audit remotely. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. We had no audit adjustments proposed as a result of audit procedures. We'd like to highlight that because the information you received during the year can be relied upon for your decision making, as there was no material errors found as part of our audit. No disagreements with management during the audit process. We will obtain management representation after this meeting prior to release of the report that all information was provided, nothing withheld, etc. Management consultation with other accountants, that just deals with if we had a disagreement, you have to talk to another auditor about their opinion, that you make us aware of that just so we can provide the information and make sure they have all the necessary facts of the situation, but to our knowledge, there's no such consultation. Issues discussed prior to retention just deals with we take questions year round and it's not a condition to our retention as your auditors. We're happy to take questions throughout the year as items come up. And then the other matters required supplementary information, that's your MD&A and the pension schedules. We perform some limited procedures over them, but do not audit them. We just ensure that they agree to the financial statements. And then supplementary information, we compare and reconcile the information to the underlying accounting records used to prepare the financial statements. So that's our standard communication letter required by auditing standards. Pretty boilerplate language there, year to year, as you've seen in the past. So no questions there, James. We'll move on to the financial statements.
Thank you, Bob. I'm just going to skip past the cover and table of contents to the first section, which is the opinion. So the authority received an unmodified opinion, meaning the financials were fairly presented in all material respects. An unmodified opinion is a clean audit report and what you would like to see as your board. The rest of the letter, I'm just going to touch on briefly. So we do conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standard. Those are detailed further down in the letter. There is an additional paragraph this year just to call out the 2024 comparative totals were audited by another auditor who also issued an unmodified opinion in the prior year, but we don't provide any assurance over those comparative totals. So management's responsibility in the audit of financial statements is for the preparation and fair presentation of the financials, along with the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control. While our responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Reasonable just means not absolute. We're not testing 100% of transactions, and we do our testing on a sampling basis. However, all those tests uncovered no areas that were not accurately reported. Additionally, as Bob mentioned, there was no management letter to be issued. So everything in the internal control system that the authorities said it was operating, that's what we saw throughout our testing. So that's also positive. The final section just point out the required supplementary information and supplementary information that Bob mentioned in the communication letter. The first section of the financial statements are the management discussion and analysis. This just provides some summary financial data and additional narrative language over the authority's operations. As we're going to go through the yearly results and the financials, I'm not going to go over this in detail, but if there are any questions on this or anything throughout the reports as I scroll through, please feel free to stop me and ask those questions. The financial statements really start with page 1, which is the statement of net position. I'm really just going to highlight significant year-over-year changes or any new areas on the financial statements themselves. So overall, total assets did increase about $1.5 million. When looking at 25 compared to 24, this increase is mainly due to your cash and accounts receivable lines, which will really just vary based on timing And then your grants receivable line also increased as a result of that electrical upgrade project. One new area you will see is the net pension asset line is reported as an asset in the current year, whereas previously it was reported as a liability. I'll point more to that detail once we get to the footnotes. But overall, the total liabilities of the authority increased about $133,000. You'll see that's primarily just the two accounts payable lines. Both do tie in with that ongoing grant project, and these increases were offset with a pay down on the revenue notes that the authority holds. The final section on page 1 is net position. Overall, the total decreased about $670,000. We'll get into that detail on the next page. In this area, there are 3 main lines. The investment in capital assets, which is just the net of capital assets held less than the debt owed related to those assets. So you'll see that's about $70 million, just indicates that there's 4 more assets held than debt related to those. The restricted line is new this year, and it's just reported as that net pension asset is in the 2025 reports. So you see that balance ties directly up to the net pension asset. And then the remaining line, or the remaining portions of net position, is just unrestricted, or essentially the excess assets available to fund operations. Page 2 details out the statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. Overall, you'll see your total operating revenues increase about $730,000, increase in rates charged, and the one connection fee that occurred in 2024. Operating expenses are summarized in this schedule, and there's additional details back on pages 28 and 29 to break out those expenses by cost type. The increase for 25 was primarily due to stormwater operating costs and wages. So your operating revenues and expenses bring you down to your operating income before depreciation, and you'll see that both funds did see positive results in operations, which is a good sign. The operating loss in the stormwater column was really just related to the depreciation on the assets held. Similarly for the sewer, you'll see the depreciation and those grant expenses did kind of chip away at that operating income before depreciation, but there still was an increase in that position of $680,000. And then page 3 details out your statements of cash flows. There are 3 main activities in here. That would be operating, capital and related financing, and then investing. Again, in here, you'll see that the majority of the cash inflows really did come through the operating activities of the authority. And then the cash outflows really related to your grant expenses and your payments down on the revenue notes. Were there any questions on those first 3 sections before we move on to briefly touch on the footnotes?
Nope, not yet. Thank you.
So the footnotes do contain information you're accustomed to seeing in the financial statements themselves. As Bob mentioned, there were no new adopted standards that really impacted how the reports are presented or any information that is included in the notes. So footnote 1 really just details out the nature of the entity, and footnote 2 provides additional context over the significant accounting policies included in the front financials. Again, since there are no significant changes here, I'm not going to go into too much depth on any of these items. And then one thing I did want to point out, there are a few pending pronouncements coming into effect soon. I believe next year is 103 and 104. So statement 103 will change the way that the MD&A is presented and some of the information that is included in that schedule itself. And then 104 will just change the way that the capital assets footnote is going to look moving forward. Continuing on, notes 3 and 4 just contain additional data over cash in your developer escrow accounts. Footnote 5 is over your plant and equipment. You'll see there wasn't too much activity in 2025. One disposal, a few minor additions under your CIP, but really the bulk of the change there was your accumulated depreciation and depreciation expense. Footnote 6 details out the revenue notes held by the authority, along with future maturity schedules, just so you know what's coming down the pike about what is owed on that debt, and you'll see it's very consistent over the next 5 years and moving forward. As Bob mentioned, note 7 is a sensitive estimate and sensitive disclosure to the financial statements. That's just because the third-party actuaries do provide calculations over this data, and that's why we pointed out as such. As I mentioned on the, and this is a very long footnote, so we're not going to go through it in detail, just all requirements that are needed to be disclosed in the financial statements. The only item I wanted to point out relates to the flip from a net pension liability to a net pension asset. So you'll see these 3 columns here. The first is driven by the actuarial valuation, which discloses what is going to be expected to owed in the future. The middle column details out what is held in those pension trust funds related to the liability, and that gets you down to your net pension liability or asset. So just improved market conditions and contributions during the year, along with, fewer projected increases in what's going to be owed, did result in that amount being a net pension asset for the year. And then the remaining footnotes are pretty much just standard footnotes that you've seen in the past. Footnote 8 just is a general litigation footnote. Footnote 9 is your concentration footnote for the purchase sewage treatment agreement. And then footnote 10 is just the commitments for the borough and the authority for the municipal services agreement, along with the future payment schedule there. That brings us to the end of the financials. So were there any questions on the financials themselves or any just general questions anyone had?
I have a question. And I don't know how far you go into this, but us taking over the stormwater fees is relatively new. And did you see any significant weaknesses or deficiencies in how we have planned that out? Because we've increased fees this year to our customers to be prepared for potential costs. Did you see any gaps when you were going through the audit?
No, everything looked good on our end. We performed an analytical procedure over the billings times the customers to get to your revenue total. Everything looks fair, and I think you're pretty much funding that fund the depreciation cause your loss for the year, and which is expected because you obtained that big asset, so that just is depreciation on that. So everything's good on our end from what we reviewed.
Okay, thank you.
I could ask just, and I guess as you're presenting it or you're giving us your final conclusions here or whatever, it's like, can you give us any context where we were maybe better than some municipalities you work with and maybe we worse? I think there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I think you have a lot more context on that than I would. So I just anything pros and cons from. I know it's probably not like super easy answer necessarily, but just any context on that would be helpful for me.
No, you were good. Based on other authorities we see, your management team was prepared for us to come in for audit. Everything was in good shape and ready to be audited. Wasn't a lot of back and forth. What is this? What is this? Support was given for anything we asked for. So a smooth audit on our end. I hope it was on your end and management as well for this year.
Yeah, I would echo what Bob said. Everything we asked for is readily available. First year audits are always a little different just because we don't know what you call certain things, and we might be asking for something that you call something else. So once we got through that, it was a very smooth audit, and everyone within the authority was very easy to work with, which we appreciate. And not having a management letter is always a positive as well.
Yeah, for being a first year, not having any comments, that's rare, so I kind of attest to your team on that one.
Great. And anything you'd say your approach may differ from our previous approach or from other firms in this, or is a lot of this kind of by the book and you guys are either more efficient or less efficient than other groups? Just anything on how your approach is different than others, or?
Yeah, I can't really speak to what other audit firms do. I mean, auditors are required to do the typical risk assessment over audit areas and define where the risks might be and look at those in particular, but we complete all the procedures we need to, and we're satisfied to give an unmodified opinion.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Thank you.
Can I just ask about the authority being a component unit of the borough and should be included in the borough's financial results? What is your standing on that?
As far as if you should be,
Yes.
that's done by the group auditor, so that'd be the borough auditors that perform that assessment. We believe based on the close relationship you have that that's what would qualify you to be a component unit and included in their financial statements. And that's all that's stating.
That's all that's stating. It's not that you have a recommendation to.
Oh, no, we're just required to disclose that you are a component of the borough and
Okay.
this audit gets presented as part of that audit
Okay. All right.
as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. And they'll rely on our audit. They won't do their own procedures over you, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Who internally in our team uses this information the most? Is it Shannon, or was it just when we're,
The government.
if we're planning processes for us and when we're going for loans and such, is that?
I mean, yeah. Yep.
If you ever went for a Penn Best loan, it's a requirement there. You have to get 3 years of audited financial statements. And it's really for if anyone from the general public wants to come in and know how our finance is done, it's for transparency, that you have a third party that goes out, reviews our finances, make sure that we're properly doing it, and is making any suggestions. So it's really for transparency, and that as a public official, you guys are properly managing public money.
Right.
Yep.
I guess, yeah.
In addition, the Municipal Authority Act requires you to have an annual audit as well, so that's what the DCD submission is there.
I'm going to ask an ugly question. So years ago, the authority had some issues with money being stolen. Would an audit like this highlight something like that? So
We don't audit for fraud, but if we come across it, we're required to report it.
No, but you audit our internal controls to see
Yes.
if there's any missing pieces that could potentially happen because of lack of policy or procedure, correct?
Correct. We perform walkthroughs of all your internal processes and did not find any issues in the process. There was proper segregation of duties and nothing came to our attention that would be a concern at this time.
And I don't know if anyone here was here back then, but were we doing audits? Does anybody know?
I believe we were doing audit.
Right after it happened, that's the
Yeah.
reason.
Microphones, please, microphones.
That's the reason we got brought in around 2007, 2008. The authority was doing audits at the time. And again, the auditors can disagree with me. They're not looking at every single account. They're not looking at every single ledger entry. Sometimes it's referred to as a snapshot audit. They're looking at certain accounts. The person who had been here knew where to move money from, so it wouldn't necessarily get caught. It eventually got caught. But it also, I don't know if anyone was looking at the financials at that point in time, and I mean, I don't know if the board was looking at the financials at that point in time, so.
Okay.
So it was easier to do for her. And then plus, a lot of the theft that she was doing was things that an auditor never would have picked up on. She was giving a lot of overtime to people. She was, charging things that shouldn't have been charged, but it's not something that an auditor necessarily would have picked up on.
Okay, thanks.
We also have Major and Mastro come in monthly and check the journal entries and check the payroll and do all of that stuff. So if anybody probably would catch it, it might be them when
They're doing all the GL lines.
yes, they're checking, yeah. And there's certain entries that they do, like for depreciation and stuff like that, so.
And I guess, right, any suggestions for us for improving for next year or whatever would have ended up in this report anyway. So in general, pleased with how things are going. No suggestions on your end for improving things.
Correct. Yeah.
Nice job, team.
Agreed. Cool.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. That's all we have. Can answer anything else. If not, we'll let you get back to your meeting.
I think a motion to accept the audit is in order.
I'll make the motion to accept the audit.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty. It's always good to start off on a good note. Do we need an executive session for anything today?
No.
Okay.
It's always on there as a placeholder.
Yep, just checking. All right, so let's just jump right in. If everyone had a moment to review the minutes from our May 26th meeting, I am looking for an approval of those meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, first item on the agenda under our report section will be our financial report. Any questions related to accounts payable or revenue in our statements received?
I was curious, there was a line entry for Eastern Generator, labor found small weeping by rear freeze plug. What's that?
Say that again.
I know, it sounded interesting.
That is, it was a small fuel leak, I believe, in the backup generator at the West Conshohocken pump station. So, our staff goes out there weekly and exercises and tests it, and they found that. So they had to call the company to come out and assess it, and some repairs are being made.
Thanks. I saw weeping and I thought, oh, what happened? Don't cry.
Any other questions on our GL or our revenue? Okay, hearing no other questions, what I'm looking for is a motion to accept our financial reports and accounts payable specifically in the amount of $216,757.92.
I'll second.
And may I have a roll call vote, please?
Jack Ambler,
Yes.
Christine Bertino,
Yes.
George Bass,
Yes.
Tina Suckles.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Before we approve the whole financial report, I did get more information on the express bill pay
Okay.
transition. So it looks like they're going to be phasing out the real-time integration at the end of 2026. So that means,
End of calendar year 26,
Yes.
so December?
yes,
Okay.
and that means that the payments will not just directly pull over to Cassell anymore. I would have to take the data and get an import file and then import the payments in. Just like I do the lockbox payments.
Okay.
So I can do that. We can do that. We also have the option to switch to their payment portal. And that would include changing everybody from express bill pay to a whole nother payment provider.
And are there fees?
There are fees.
Of course there are.
I believe it's $1,200 for the installation and then $1,600 throughout the year to maintain it.
When did they notify us that they were ending or sunsetting the real-time integration?
They didn't really notify us. I had to ask. So, again.
Based on that, I don't want to go to a company that,
But they're the company that we have, that's our billing system, that is our financial system, so we would have to switch our whole financial system then.
the one we just switched to them.
Yes, yes. So it's something, and again, for now, just doing the import file once real-time payments stop shouldn't be a huge deal. But after 2027, they're stopping with express bill pay. So we will eventually have to either pick another provider or go with their payment portal.
How long did it take us to decide on them?
It took a while. It took, yeah, a year or two at least to find. Right. So it's something we have to start thinking about. And I do have a handout, everybody can check it out, but.
So are all these associated with their software? So you have to do this because your software is going to get upgraded and not accept.
Right,
what you do
right,
now.
right, eventually, that's the way that it's going to be.
So in order to continue to have the,
Use Cassell, or again, like they did say, I can always import the payments. I should
For
always
now.
be able to import the payments,
for 2027,
at least until 2027.
which is not.
But I said, I had mentioned them, I import lockbox. They're not getting rid of that, so it shouldn't change that. It shouldn't change that.
But eventually it might.
But eventually, you never know, they might not accept files from Express Bill Pay, or, the problem is Express Bill Pay doesn't want to pay for the maintenance, and Cassell doesn't want to pay for the maintenance of this real-time integration, so they're stopping it. Because neither one of them wants to pay for it now.
And it's Cassell.
Are they moving to a different integration, or
They're moving
they're
to-
not doing integration and they
They're
want to
going to,
stand alone?
yeah, they're going to stop doing the partnerships with the different payment providers, and they're gonna have their own payment provider in the system.
And what happens to companies like Cassell? Like, are they looking to build their own system?
Well, so Cassell set up their own payment provider, and that's what they want us to do. That's what they
So
want us to move to.
What is the company that we're using as the intermediary?
Express Bill Pay.
Express Bill Pay. What are they planning to do?
What they've always done.
What they vote, yeah, they're gonna continue to do the payments. It's Cassell that apparently that is telling them we're not going to.
But if we won't eventually be able to import,
We don't really have a choice here,
Yeah.
is what she's saying.
Right, we don't
We have
really
to
have a
start the plan.
We're gonna have to start a plan to either switch payment providers or change our whole billing and financial system again.
We're going to go back to the checks.
Yeah,
It's like-
and just
it's like going
accept,
back.
right, and just accepting.
Yeah, I was
the
gonna
change.
say,
Figure out
nothing
the
like going
change.
backwards.
Right,
Go
right.
back to 1965 or something.
Is there any advantage to go, is the new Cassell's version going to be better in some way that we
So-
can sell to
they
ourselves?
are-
Yeah,
So they
it's
are saying
technology.
that it will be better,
Yeah.
that you'll be able to actually physically see the bill, like you'll be able to see the usage and stuff. Like now, when you go on, you can't see your usage, it just gives you like the bill total and that kind of stuff. So it will be a mirror image of the bill. And it'll be the real-time integration, there won't be any importing in any of the.
Getting away from the old integration styles and going to API and Fire and all those, and
Yeah, well,
they're expecting
yeah,
you to
they're
keep
building
up.
it into their own
Right.
System, so they don't have to, so
Yeah.
that they can make the money. And
yeah, I
they're
don't
not
like
gonna-
that then they limit, we have no options. Like, they have us.
Right.
Well, we have an option, right? We have the option of manually doing it for a year while we try and figure out.
Right, but I mean, eventually, they're.
Eventually, we
it's
may
either
have to-
stay
Companies, yeah.
all in with them,
Companies do that all
switch.
the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I get it, I just don't like it.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's
fair,
bad
unfair.
business, but,
I feel the same way. So I'm,
and I don't like being forced to pay fees.
As a resident.
right, and then,
Everything.
You're always a good resident barometer.
I am here
I'm not.
representing the residents. That's why I'm here.
so it's something we have to put on our radar.
So my recommendation is we start putting together our template of the pros and cons of the scenarios and
I'm guessing that Cassell and, do we still work with?
Can you get on the microphone?
Sorry. So we would work with Cassell's or whomever, the integrators, in order to put this add-on in, right?
you really thought you were leaving us, didn't you, George? We're not letting you leave if we have to do this.
So, we got a whole stack there. I know there's one for everybody. So I kept them all. Right, so so either, is Cassell telling us this, or is it?
Cassell is.
Dallas,
Cassell
we don't
is-
work, we still work, no, we don't work with Dallas, that's the old company. But didn't we have an integrator that we worked with?
No, it was Cassell.
It was Cassell.
Well, it was Dallas Data Systems.
Okay.
Dallas Data Systems was bought out by Cassell.
Right.
And that's why this is all happening.
Okay,
So,
so it'll be Cassell, so this David, Eberding is with Cassell.
Is with
He's the one who
Cassell,
provided
yes.
this for us, and they will provide consultants to help us do it, no doubt, right? Yeah.
yep,
And Cassell is saying that Express Bill Pays integration is being phased out.
yeah, they're both saying it now.
Oh, they're both saying,
They're both, yeah.
because I didn't know if Express Bill Pay was going to get creative.
I
No,
think-
they're deciding they're not putting any more money into
Yeah, they're
Cassell.
they're not putting, yes.
So
They
who are
don't-
they putting money into?
That I don't know yet.
Probably other,
Because if we
Vendors.
kept Express Bill Pay,
but that's not your engine that's running your.
I realize that.
operations.
However, from a resident perspective, it doesn't look like it changed.
They did mention, just also, they did mention that they have something where they can send automatic emails to the people who already have accounts, and it'll have set up an account for you, and you just have to create a password. So you won't have to go through the whole setup again. How well
I
it's
see
gonna
what you're
work,
getting at.
I don't
You're getting
know.
at the front
End
end
user.
view. The end, yeah, right. the end.
What changes it to our customers?
No, yeah, to that, they have apparently a system where it will change it for the customers. They will get an email to their email that's on file to set up a new password for the new system.
Right,
And
but
that's
it'll look
with
different.
Cassell.
That's Cassell.
My point is that if we stayed with Express Bill Pay and whomever they're working with, from an end user perspective, it wouldn't look like anything changed.
Right.
Whereas if we stick with Cassell, it's going to impact our end users.
That's correct. And so the only way to do that would be to change Cassell.
Which would impact the end users anyway. Oh, no.
Well,
Because
no.
they'll still be using.
Because that's that's just.
Well, it
That's
would,
assuming you
because
get
it's
the
gonna be a
system.
financial.
It's going to be a financial
Right.
impact on the residents.
It's a bigger financial impact to change a whole
Whoever we went with.
financial system than
Accepted.
a
Express
window to their bills.
I understand that. That's why we need to weigh in.
Yeah, we need to
all of
list
that.
out the pros and cons in a table.
Yeah. I'm not headstrong on one or the other. I'm asking the questions
Yep,
just
yep.
to understand what our options are.
And I don't know enough about Express Pay, if that's older technology that, some of these other companies are outpacing them with, updates and upgrades and stuff, so I just don't know.
Could be. Honestly, I don't know what
Because we ended that
Data.
late.
what data could be on my bill that's going to impact me as a customer. Like, just tell me how much I owe. I don't need to see. Because I see my water usage on my aqua bill. Do I need to see my sewage rates? I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes information isn't helpful. That's my 2 cents.
All right, you have marching orders.
Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for the
It's
bad
always
news.
good news in the
I'm sorry.
land of IT.
You know, I just, people don't like change.
Yeah.
Why don't they get that?
All right. Any other questions related to that? All right, then I'm looking for a motion to accept the financial reports into record.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next item under our reports is our solicitor's report, and there are a couple items, so I will hand the mic over to Michael, and please make sure you turn the microphone.
As you hand it over, make sure I turn it on. We have one pretty simple and straightforward action item this evening, and then one issue that was added. We have an approval of a contract for professional services for a project located at 1846 Maple Street. The developer is Mecka Properties LLC. And as always, if you need to have some details about the project itself, those questions are probably best directed to Ed, Brent, or Fred.
Anything to note worth bringing up, or?
Not yet, it's still pretty early in the project.
This basically just sets up the escrow so we can start to review the plans. So we really don't dig into the plans until you have the money in your account to pay us. So this is really step one.
Thank you.
All right, so do I have a motion for approval of the contract for professional services for the project located at 18-46 Maple Street, Mecca Properties LLC?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
The second item, and the one that was added, is unless you've been out of the country living under a rock or completely not paying attention, you're aware that at the old Cleveland Steel site in Plymouth Township is a proposal by developer Brian O'Neill to build a data center. They have applied to Plymouth, and it is going to the zoning hearing board on a special exception. As I mentioned earlier today in talking with someone, the original attorney who taught me zoning told me that a special exception is neither. It is neither special nor an exception. It is a permitted use that as long as you meet certain criteria, you are able to get your relief. O'Neill will be arguing that what he is proposing at this site is of the same general character as what was there before, which was a heavy industrial steel mill. He will also be arguing that it will have less of an impact than when it was a fully operating steel mill. Plymouth Township is opposing the application. There are a lot of groups that are going to oppose the application. The first hearing is going to be on this Thursday night, and we anticipate that the first evening will probably be taken up mostly with issues regarding those who are seeking party status. Unless something is dramatically different, that sewage on that site will come into our system. It is part of the area of Plymouth that comes to us, so we would be receiving that sewage. All of the information that we've seen so far indicates that the only sewage that's going to be coming to us is the same that's coming out of your house. They're not going to be discharging chemicals or anything along those lines into the sewer system. Tina and I spoke earlier in the week, or maybe at the end of last week, about the authority seeking party status. If the authority seeks party status, that means you're literally a party to the hearing. You're allowed to present testimony, you're allowed to present witnesses, you're allowed to cross-examine witnesses, but perhaps one of the more important things that party status would do for us is make sure that every document that is submitted as part of the process, we get copies of. So we'll be able to examine whatever is being presented. Now, bearing in mind that this is a special exception, they're not seeking a variance, it's not land development, there may not be a whole lot of detail regarding the sewer issues. There may not be a whole lot of detail regarding some of the other land development issues, but there probably will be enough to have a general idea of what their plan is regarding this. Sewage discharge, water usage, electricity usage, and things along those lines. We cannot represent the authority in a conditional, in a party status, because we represent Plymouth Township. I spoke with the applicant's attorney earlier today and told them that the authority may want party status, and they have indicated they won't object to us getting party status. I also told him that the intent is maybe not to actively participate, but to observe, and obviously he doesn't have an opinion regarding that. And I also told him that the authority will need to retain special counsel. We've had special counsel represent us recently in the zoning hearing board matter in Conshohocken, Mike McGinnis, and we have from Begley Carlin, and we have asked Mike if he'd be willing to do it again. He's doing a conflict check, so we may not know about him from Thursday. But I have spoken again with the applicant and told him that if the board does elect to seek party status, that someone from my office would appear, would indicate that we want party status, and would let them know that we will eventually be getting out. We think with the scheduling on how this is going to go, you can probably retain somebody at your July meeting and they'll be ready to go. But if there's going to be another hearing scheduled before our July meeting, we can always reach out to you ahead of time and give you the name. If Mike McGinnis can't do it, we can give you the names of some other people who can represent us during the hearing. So,
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I reached out to all of you just from the proactive approach perspective. When I thought about it, knowing that what's going on with data centers and that we are a site that other communities are feeding into our main sewer system. Right now it's Plymouth, but it could be West Conshohocken at any time as well. So I think for us, that generates the idea of following this one very closely, being proactive in what it is that our policies and procedures currently say, being strategic about putting crucial safeguards in play for this, because I know that we say it's the same, but will it throw off our biology in our tanks if we get influx of a lot more different water type? Throwing off our biology then will cost us money to then figure out what kind of bugs we need to eat things. So it will put a financial stressor on us that I don't want to put onto our residents, that I want to figure out how do you build that into the agreements as we move forward.
And you definitely need to put a lot of safeguards in, because every data center is different and the technology is changing daily and keeping up with it. Right now, it would be the cooling water that you'd be concerned about, which is the biocides and temperature, and actually being dilute. It would actually dilute and change your biology, and especially if it was a batch discharge and not a continuous. Most of them right now are closed-loop systems, so what they're representing is that with a closed-loop system, it's just domestic wastewater. It's literally just the people. It's a big, loud office building. But, you know, making sure that there's also no ability, if there is a cooling water system, that there's no floor drains, that we're not going to get an inrush in. There's a lot of things like that. And you have to be able to update your rules and regulations, as well as keeping it open through what's known as a municipal industrial pretreatment program. That's where you set it up, and that's where that permitting process acknowledges that there is not one size fits all, that you need to look at every individual application, same as you would industry. You know, every industry is not the same. You've got to be able to set that and have the flexibilities that it won't have an impact on you. So I do think it's a good thing, you know, and it's just something that you need to continue to regulate, because even once they're in as a customer, technology is going to change again. You know, they're going to change continuously as they go through. So I don't think it's a bad idea, but I don't think it's not like you can pull a boilerplate and say, here, this is going to safeguard us. It's not. Technology is going to change too fast.
In our existing policies, procedures, do we require any types of analysis before it comes into our plan?
Everything I related just to the board, our pre-treatment ordinance covers everything. And it leads back to some of the terminology we have to change, because there's no more a superintendent, but it leads back to eventually, the control comes back to the superintendent to determine what we're doing. The way the ordinance is written back in the 80s and 90s with the pre-treatment regulation. So I think it's a good idea to review our ordinance, or our resolutions, as I mentioned, but we are covered. And I mean, you're clear, I mean, our pre-treatment ordinance has the basis to control us. And we have the right, once they do it, if it goes to permit process with our pre-treatment, they would have to apply for a permit to discharge to us. And you have the review of all of us that would go through that process. And we're unique biology with our RBCs. We don't want clean water. I mean, we're not going to take cooling water. We're just not going to do it. Because we actually want domestic sewage that provides a nutrient base. You don't want dilution. So I think you have the safeguards in our pretreatment ordinance or our resolutions, I mean, obviously in conjunction with the Conshohocken Borough. But it's a lot of process where they have to apply for a permit to us, if they go that way. But based upon Mike and I's discussion today, they're looking only domestic at this point.
But I think it's also just a positive for us to start getting involved in this early stage, because I think it does kind of set up the fact that if this gets approved by the zoning hearing board, and it'll most likely be appealed, or if it gets denied by the zoning hearing board, and it most likely will be appealed, there are going to be so many other steps in this process, and being in the loop, being part of the discussion with DEP, with Plymouth, with the county, with everyone else who's going to be regulating this, I think it makes sense. I also think, from just a practical standpoint, our ratepayers and residents are going to want to know where we are on this. So I think getting party status, I think, makes some sense. We can say to our ratepayers and residents, you know, we're monitoring the situation, we're on top of it. So,
Does Sweetland use West Conshohocken
No,
facilities? They're only Upper Marion.
correct.
And where is the Upper Marion sewer plant?
They have two facilities. One's very close to Sweetland, and I'm not sure where the other one, I've never been to the other one.
They're just down the river.
All right.
They're 4 miles apart. The upper end of the township, the lower end of the township.
And has anyone identified an existing data center that is a alleged closed-loop system, and finding out from them firsthand how it impacted their sewer plant? Like, is
I
that
have,
something?
I reached out to somebody locally who's receiving waters from a place, and it's a closed loop system. They said they have, really the same as like Mike said, they have maybe a dozen employees. There's literally no coolant water entering their system at all.
Is the thought that it is an emergency situation that would then produce water into our plant?
No.
Because I would think a closed-loop system would have to have some kind of,
If they don't have floor drains, it doesn't get into our system, and they have a ton of backups that it has to be hauled out to a regulated facility. The key is no floor drains. And honestly, they don't allow that cooling water, because to get down to a floor drain, you'd be soaking all of those computers. So they are very protective of their technology from that end. But that's why you don't allow floor drains. That's why you require an annual inspection, that there's no cross-connection into our system, there's no bleed-off valves.
so we would do that inspection?
Yes, that would be part of your MIP, you would do an annual inspection to make sure there's no place where the water can enter into our system. So,
But again, I think one of the things that Fred just said is very important to note. Water is a bad thing in these data centers. They don't want water anywhere inside. All the fire suppression is based on sucking all the air out of the rooms, and because it's going to be some very expensive computer equipment in there, and as I found out a couple of times when I've spilled coffee on my computer, water and computers don't mix. So,
Fred, can you talk about the permit process or that they'd have to go through for us? So they submit it to us.
they submit an application, and then based on the application, we will require the testing from either a similar facility or them to submit it. And it's a back and forth application where they describe their system, they provide drawings, because obviously you're approving them before they exist. So it's not like you can go out and sample them. You know, they'll show us other existing facilities where they have the same exact technology installed. You go and you have telephone interviews with them. But then you submit criteria and requirements. If they violate them, then you can shut them off. So there's a lot of ways that it's done, but it's a back and forth, and it's really a paper exercise to begin with, because they don't exist. You know what I mean? So all you can do is, and then when you write the permit, you put all these requirements in. When they build the facility, that you then verify that they comply with all those requirements. If they don't comply with all those requirements, they don't get a use and occupancy permit. They're not going to put $100 million worth of computers in a building and not get a use and occupancy permit. But it's up to us to be diligent. One of the things that Mike said, and I think is very important from other there, is that by taking party status, you establish yourself as a stakeholder. So you're somebody that they have to go to, and if the next application, they're going to realize that you're going to do that, and they're going to approach you much earlier as a stakeholder. So I think being a stakeholder is a positive thing.
Yeah.
Do we take in sewage from the trash to steam plant in Plymouth?
I believe we do.
And I think the existing Bethlehem Steel plant, not Bethlehem Steel,
Cleveland.
Cleveland Steel plant, I think they had their own package plant, and they discharged directly there. I don't think they were connected to the public sewer system. But they, with the new application, because they are in the public sewer system, they will have to now connect in there.
So here's a question, and this is, my Spidey's sense going up. When you start creating these special rules in permits, is there anything like spot zoning where you're targeting a certain industry and you can't do that for an industry? You have to kind of.
No,
Okay.
it's actually specifically allowed, and it's required by both the DEP and the EPA. The DEP has to submit these reports to the municipality, submits to the DEP and EPA, and we do. We have Harass Chemical right now where we do that. I represent a lot of industries out in Bristol Township, and they're literally Acme clothes wash. I mean, they wash clothes, but they have to do that. And Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority is a public sewer provider. They go out, they do annual inspections, they do sampling, they surcharge us. So if they don't comply with the MIP, EPA comes down on DEP, DEP comes down on us. So we have, it's a duet, it's not just we control our own destiny. We're now responsible that if we put this criteria on that company, we're now the regulatory agency. So we have to document that we did everything. If they don't comply, we have to surcharge them.
I was
We
going to
have
say,
to
we
take
could put a
action.
surcharge for the administrative burden that
There's an application fee.
Okay.
And I don't honestly know what it is, but. Yeah, but there is, and it varies all over. But, if they put a higher strength waste, that's normally what I deal with, a higher strength waste. So they surcharge to make us come down to domestic standards. And the primary thing there that you're doing is you don't want your residential customers or other office, subsidizing because they're putting a higher strength.
That's correct.
And
Not
that's
what-
really what you're doing by that surcharge is you're equaling the field. Well, if you can't handle it, you're eliminating it, but in the meantime, you're not subsidizing. So and we're making it sound probably more complicated than it is, because it is pretty straightforward, but it's it's an involved process.
It is what
And
residents are
and
concerned
you've
about.
got to, administer it, and it's hard when you only have one or two. Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority has 5 full people, that's all they do,
Yeah. And that was kind of my next thing is we're not heavy industrial anymore.
No, and you're not, and that's where, it's really not a heavy lift when you only have one or two, because, we spend a lot of time, because the paperwork that we have to fill out to report annually for this, whether it's 1 or 30, it's the same amount of paperwork, so there is, a little bit, we're already doing it. It's not like you are now starting a new process. You're just adding a second customer to that existing process. We've got to take samples, they got to notify us when they discharge,
I'll have to say the closed loop thing, if it's most likely that does seem obviously incredibly appealing, and then it's really probably not much of an issue for us at all, assuming that.
One of the things that, because I work on both sides, one of the things that they normally do is they put a condition in there that it's not only a closed loop, but if there ever is, they have to have a contract with a hauler to take it to a regulated facility, and then within 24 hours of them hauling anything away, they have to provide it to the local authority. So we actually do that for one center, where we actually have to report back to them along with the hauler. They actually make 3 people do it, so that way at least somebody is responsible for doing that.
So what are we billing them for monthly?
They're just regular customers unless you have a special fee. They're a customer.
I don't think we bill them.
Yeah,
I think they're part of,
They have to have restrooms in the building.
No, they come through Plymouth.
yeah. Yeah, they aren't our customer. You got to realize, these are not
Yeah,
they're not our
Plymouth's our
customer.
customer.
Plymouth is our
That's
customer.
why I really want to stay tight
Yes.
on this, because
And
Plymouth
we
is our
have the MIP
customer.
for it, because they come to our treatment, so the treatment authority always implements the.
Well, it's Plymouth
I don't know
Township.
that. I
It's
don't
Plymouth
know that.
Township, right?
Well,
We're not part of the Plymouth Sewer Authority, the
No,
agreement, it's
but
Plymouth Township.
we have to research that, because most of the places, I believe the municipality goes back to the treatment authority. Like Upper Gwinnett has a bunch of these, and different places, so we go to Ambler, or we go to other ones there. I don't know if that's by agreement or if that's by regulation. So I would actually have to look at that, because it may be Plymouth's decision, and Plymouth could either do it themselves or do that, but because it's our NPDS permit, I'm pretty sure that it's us. It's whoever is ultimately responsible for the treatment can do the municipal industrial pretreatment program, but I'd have to verify that.
I would prefer there might be an intermunicipal agreement with that. Maybe we handle the treatment. I would have to.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is, but I think Plymouth will be cooperative with us in that regard.
And the only thing we need to change, you said we need to change that thing, so
I
it's
think we
to
want,
executive.
I think we want to review everything to make sure because of this whole language. But
Yeah.
I'm confident in our pre-treat orders was written back from your prior engineers, BCM did it.
many years ago, I know it was BCM that did the ordinance, because it's a duplicate of another facility I run. I think we're comfortable, again, but it's gonna be, no matter what, we're gonna go through a pre-treatment application that's gonna be reviewed by all the parties up here to make sure we're covered.
And right, I could imagine, right, it'd be a unique or, yeah, like, it's a charge fee, but that's only, again, that's only if they go outside of the closed loop thing, that, because right, it's normally BOD strength or something, but that's not gonna be the issue.
And either way, they're not our customers. They're a customer of Plymouth.
Okay, so we might, yes, have to.
We just have
figure
it
out another
through
way
the
to-
application
but-
process.
But in general, yeah, we're covered, you're saying, we just need to get the language updated or whatever, and nothing else. The industrial permit program will kind of handle this for us in the right way. There's nothing else in our structure that needs to change now, where we still have.
Well, I would pull the Plymouth agreement and make sure that
See where we're at, yeah,
if we need to negotiate a different structure
I agree.
in the Plymouth agreement too, to cover us. You know, I like to be good neighbors with people, but we have been taken advantage of in the past by being good neighbors. I don't want that to happen as we move forward.
Yeah, and I do think our agreement with Plymouth, they're not just sort of a customer. They own capacity in the plant. They pay us on a sort of a bulk rate. So problems, operating costs that happen cost them money as well. So if there were to be something that were to happen because they weren't allowing us to inspect or review and it caused significant problems with the plant, it's going to end up costing the Plymouth Township money and not necessarily just the customer. So they have a vested interest in making sure that this thing is operating. And I think DEP is going to be looking at these things very carefully to make sure what can enter into the system and what can't. And remember, we discharge right into the Schuylkill. So DEP is not going to want to allow them to do something which could get into us, could get discharged into the Schuylkill, cause significant problems downstream. So I think they're going to be pretty vigilant on this.
Anyone else? Comments, concerns? So it sounds like we all are on board with asking Mike to work through, make whatever magic he's got to do to find an attorney for us to become a party.
Yes.
Yep.
Do we need to make a,
Yeah, I think what you should do right now is you should make a motion to authorize the solicitor to attend on Thursday, the Plymouth Township Zoning Hearing Board, and to seek party status on behalf of the authority.
I'll make that motion, what he said.
I'll second that, what he said.
And I appreciate that I didn't have to repeat what he said. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And I did have a conversation with a partner, and she was on board with it.
Just from like we'll have an attorney, probably you there, and I guess
It can't be you, can it?
we're saying for this one, it might be, I
It's
guess.
not going to be me,
Just a
because I'm the
significant-
solicitor for the township, and the optics of me being there next to one of my other partners, it's probably going to be one of our younger colleagues, so.
And how does that information, so I mean, is it purely procedural, and are there like information, it comes back to us in some form, right? Any, you can say on that, like, it's just like.
I'll be at the
meeting
meeting,
minutes?
so I can
You're
tell
going,
you.
okay.
No, we'll just report back.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing, we don't like get anything that says you now have party status, so.
Well, yeah, just an update for how the meeting.
Yep,
went,
yep.
I guess you.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll be shocked, and maybe there'll be something substantive that will happen on Thursday night, but I think it's going to be a lot of party status and a lot of procedural stuff between the township and the applicant and the zoning hearing board.
They're not even taking public comment on Thursday night.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Thank you. That's
Okay,
great.
that
Two
concludes-
different viewpoints then. We got
That concludes our report.
All right, so do I have a motion to accept the solicitor's report into public record?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Moving right along, it's our engineer's report.
Yep. And, once again, the big action item is the payment, number 7, for contract 25-1 for HB Frazer in an amount of $126,801.25. This is for the installation of MCC EB1. So we are still on schedule to complete it by the end of July. They have to do 2 more MCC sections, that's Motor Control Center, B3 and B2. Now, we went out of sequence a little bit, and we did the automatic transfer switch earlier on. Once again, while they appear to be on schedule, the end is always a fire drill. There's always, you're running out of space and going in there. So far, it's gone very smoothly. We had little minor things, like there were the controls for the grit system were installed in the MCC, or the Motor Control Center. They shouldn't be there. That was just an available space where somebody put them. So they properly mounted them out in a control panel next to it. They should not be in there. But other than that, we didn't find as many gremlins as we thought were potential. It went through pretty smoothly, but you always find gremlins in the last, 10%. The last 10% takes 40% of the work, but right now we're pushing them. So what I'm going to be doing is working with Keystone to get the punch list inspection in the middle of July. So that way, while they still have the full crew out here, we can be starting to work punch lists, identifying any startup issues, any gremlins, really having the engineer, the contractor, and the operator kind of going through to make sure that there's nothing missing. But I think, Ed, you would agree, the contractors really worked pretty well so far.
Yes, no problems at all.
Yeah, and they floated out, hey, can we get a no-cost time extension? No. They're like, well, but we'll be done and we'll spend the grant money, but can we just wrap? No. So that went away without a lot of pushback, but I don't know that it's there. I mean, I think it went under, doesn't hurt to ask, but didn't sit real well with me. I'm like, why are we doing this now? Like where are we at? And it caused me concern, because like, what don't I know? Like, why are you asking for this? Is there something that, and I think it was just a matter of them asking for manpower.
Vacations.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're doing a lot of other grant work.
I was gonna say,
So
other jobs.
everybody's got the same timeline, so you're trying to, manufacture, use your manpower as best you can. But, so really what I'm doing is, my next big thing is really, because there's not a lot to watch and inspect, and I don't want to waste your money by having somebody sit out there, but I do want to use that money wisely to do the punch list, to make sure that we got all the startup procedures, to make sure that we're there. I mean, the good thing about MCC work is, you take it out, you move it, you put it in, you turn it back on. There's not a whole lot of startup. The equipment either works or it doesn't work. And the training, I don't know what kind of training you do. I mean, you technically have it, but what am I going to train these guys on? They've had an MCC, it's just a new one. There's not a whole lot there. I was expecting more burned wires, things like that. We have a line item in there for replacement of existing, wire. We haven't used it yet. I've been kind of surprised there. So, with that, I would, I think you guys have already voted on, but just because it is money, take a vote to pay payment request number 7 in the amount of $126,801.25.
Okay, looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, anyone opposed?
Yeah, I mean, and there still is, there's about $418,000 plus retainage on this contract. So there's still a decent amount of money in the last, but, on there. So, the next item is, now that we're wrapping this up, is the inflow pump station control. We've had 90% complete design drawings probably since May. And we've just kind of sat on them just to see if they'd ripple. I now want to go over and meet with the operator to review the design, the layout, but more importantly, the sequence of construction of how do we put new controls for our pumps to keep the existing pumps there? how do we temporarily put controls and move the controls over so we can reuse that space in that control enclosure and get rid of that Frankenstein. So we'll be kind of doing that. The goal kind of is, depending on how things go with the electrical contract, is to kind of have it ready to bid in September for potentially award in October, so it can be a spring of next year project. So that's really where we're looking for. My lead design engineer, Kirsten Herzog, is actually out on maternity leave, but she's going to be back in July. So I want her not only to finish up the MCC job, but also you sit down and meet with our operators, because I think she did a super job on this MCC control upgrade so far. And I like to her, she has knowledge of our system, her to kind of continue, on there. And I mean, and there's probably 4 engineers that work on it, regularly, but she's the project lead. So I like to reward people that run a good, clean program for me and bring it in without change orders and on time, so that's really it. Other than that, the development stuff is kind of slowed down a little bit right now. It's a lot of small stuff that's going through, and that's really, it. But, so, that completes my report, unless the board has any questions.
Questions for the engineer?
No?
Nope. All right. Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to accept the engineer's report into record?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion, a second, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Fred. All right, moving into our operation manager's report.
All right, I have one action item, that is for proposed replacement of one of the AC units at our control building that as we talked about last month, is it's down. So this is the best price we could find. It's a CoStar's approved contractor. And we are asking for consideration of to not spend more than $22,500. Yes.
How,
Which is under the.
where would it cool? What part of the building would it cool?
The half of the building on the train track side. It's, the building split long ways into 2 zones. So
So it would cool the area that the employees break?
yes.
Okay.
And that's the side that's down right now, so.
Okay. So you're asking for approval to not exceed $22,000?
Yes.
Anyone have any questions related to that? Anyone have any opposition? How many years has it been broken?
Oh, it's been patched. It's only been down since this year.
Okay.
It's
I'm
been patched
happy.
almost every year.
I'm happy. I don't want those guys to be in,
Yeah, they have to have a place to,
yeah.
and their car isn't the ideal option to go sit in at lunchtime, so.
No, I think it's our obligation to provide them.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion
I'll
to
make the motion to
give them
approve the
approval?
Not to exceed $22,000 for
Second?
air conditioning for the guys.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, a couple things. Had a meeting today with the team from Plymouth Township, the new manager, Matt West. Well, he's been about a year now, I guess he's been there. And their new finance director, Kellen Jarrett. So they wanted to come over, have an informal talk, and they wanted to see what our capital projects look like. So when we talk about RVCs, they know what an RVC is, or, just past projects like the odor control. So I think what they're looking to do is before we, get into this next budget kind of presentation, is rather than going back and forth and bouncing, maybe we just sit down at the table and say, hey, let's move these pieces around so they look good for everybody. So I'm going to reach back out with them by the end of the week, come up with some dates, get both sides together at the table and just try to hash it out.
Because both are new this year
Yes.
in the process. Okay.
So like, what would you be, what are you trying to rearrange? Sorry, I approached you on that.
Not necessarily rearrange, I think it's basically just to make sure, I think they want to really understand how realistic our schedule is. say if the utility, the yard piping is gonna happen next year, so they can better prepare for themselves.
So we have a multi-year capital plan, and since they are part of that capital plan, they have to do their budget planning around that. So I think they're trying to, yeah. And since they're new, they're trying to really understand, do we stay on track? Do we?
That makes sense. Thank you.
All right, last week had a DEP plan inspection that went really well. I love those kind. So, we have a new inspector too, so that was my second time having him to the plant, so it was good. There was no concerns, it was a pleasant ordeal, so let's keep those coming.
It was a pleasant experience. Don't call it an ordeal.
Let's see.
DEP is our friend.
I have, the last thing I have is actually some good news. We had some collection fees come in Friday. I got a phone call, and it was down one of the partial ones for Washington Street. So they said, well, where do we mail it? And I said, well, where are you? He said, I'm at the trailer on the site. I said, I could be there in 4 minutes.
And I'm walking.
That's very good.
Yeah, so we got that, and I couldn't wait to send pictures. So that was a good thing. So you've probably seen that little upturn on the report there, so.
Awesome.
And that concludes my report.
Any questions for our operations?
I will put together, with your permission, like a sample of how to do a game at Fun Fest.
Sure.
And then you can decide whether or not that works or not.
I mean, we
I
didn't
like
talk
it.
about this piece in here. Is that worth?
Can't see.
This was the exceedance in the fecal.
Oh, okay.
Is that worth talking much about? I guess you had somebody come in and do an evaluation as well on it, or?
No, we did an internal evaluation, and it was a failed piece of equipment, pretty much. So we put, taken out of service, it's being repaired as we speak. So now we're just manually keeping an eye on that every day, so.
So it was like, yeah, it was the residual, residual chlorine?
That was the fecal.
I know, but so what was the?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, so, yeah, the chlorinator was actually the technology that regulates it. That came up short a little bit, so that's right now, we're getting that updated and replaced and making sure that's ready to go.
Controls or the sensors?
Yes, they're controls.
Okay,
The
okay,
control system.
okay. And yeah, and then I guess you were gonna up the dose some percentage as well, like 1 gallons per whatever the heck it is hour, I think in this one, but.
Well, we increased our internal testing. We used to do that once a day. Now we're doing it 3 times a day. So now we can really, if something's straying by the end of our shift, we can kind of, make an adjustment.
And what does DEP, what does they care? What happened to do we have like a certain number that?
When he
matters
was,
for, or-
when he was at our plant last week, he didn't even mention it.
Okay, okay. That's good you caught it then, when you did, so. Cool, thank you.
Thank you for the new format of your report. I do like
I've
that.
been
Yeah, I like
going
that.
around with it for a little bit, and
Yeah, no, I like it. It looks nice. Okay, so any other questions? Hearing no other questions, do I have a motion to accept the operation manager report into record?
Make a motion?
Well, second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And next up is our executive director's report.
Okay, we're down to, we've been interviewing and reviewing candidates for the Assistant Finance Director for the last month or month and a half, and we're down to a short list of 2, and hopefully we'll have in position to make a recommendation over the next week or 2, and then turn over to Michael's office to start doing background checks and proceed with that. So I think we're, like I said, we have 1 interview on Thursday and 1 interview on Monday. So I'll let the board know how those go, but we're down to a short list of 2. Budget 2020 for 2027, we'll have this hopefully completed in the month of July and actually given to the board by the end of July. I anticipate that. The rate study is continuing to progress, which I hope that will be completed in July as well. Ed and myself met with the staff, every department in our staff over the last month or two, well, actually, not a month, the last month, to discuss efficiencies and effectiveness within our group, how we can improve ourselves moving forward. It was a very good meetings with all our staff and coming to the table to improve our operations with our crew. Because as you know, half our staff in 2 years will be retiring. So we have to put ourselves in position for that. Next year, you're going to probably see part of our budget that, if we anticipate these individuals 2028 going, you're losing 100 years of service coming from 3 of our gentlemen in our team. So we met with it's time to evaluate that, how we move forward, that we have a very smooth transition, just like we're doing in the finance department with Linda retiring. And the last thing is I want to concur with Fred and even Ed, this electrical upgrade, we sit here and say it's going well. It is very going well. haven't gotten anything to my desk that requires myself to get on Fred's case or Ed. It has gone, and this is a huge job. I mean, when you're talking electrical grid background, it's the vertebrae just like your back. And it's compliments to Fred and Ed. I mean, it's gone very, very smoothly. Now, I know we're down to the midnight hour coming down, but it's compliments to them. I mean, it's a huge operation when you're doing a whole system like this, all the little intrinsic parts to get it done. So I think it's necessary for the board to hear that. I know you hear Fred say that, but from my standpoint, it's compliments for both of them.
Excellent.
Well done, excellent, yeah.
I
Appreciate it.
the
I
job
think
well
the
done.
team is amazing, between Shannon working with the auditors, Ed and Fred working with this upgrade, Mike's expertise on guiding us through this data center. Like, we have a really good team. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Great. Well said, yeah.
Great.
Okay, that completes my report, but expect something probably by Tuesday to discuss the board as well as we proceed to go background checks. So I expect to be in contact with Mike next week. Hopefully everything goes well. That completes my report.
Make a motion to accept the executive director's report.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next item on our agenda is any old business or new business. Does anyone have any old business or new business? Okay. Hearing no old business or new business. One more time, any public comment come in? Public comment. Well, thank you for joining us this evening, everyone. And hearing no additional comments or concerns, I will call us meeting adjourned this evening.
I'll make a motion to close.
I'll second.
And I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.